Well, the making of the first fight was met with great enthusiasm. The idea of the second fight kind of bemoaned by the MMA public. And after Saturday night, it seems like everyone is dreaming of a third fight. Hello again, everyone. I'm Ariel Helwani, back here in Las Vegas. That is Marc Raimondi. That is Shaun Al-Shatti. UFC 202 just wrapped up from right inside of that arena, the T-Mobile Arena to be exact. And what a classic we just witnessed in the main event. Officially, Conor McGregor wins via majority decision. Two judges had him winning the fight. One judge had it scored a draw, but we can all agree that it was one of the best fights of the year, and it certainly lived up to the hype, maybe even exceeded the hype going into this one. Unbelievable stuff, guys. Let me start with you, Shaun. Did you think Conor McGregor did enough to win that fight? Did you score it in his favor?
I did. I had it 3-2 Conor. I gave him the first and the second, although the second was very close. I gave it to him because of the knockdown. I gave the third to Diaz, obviously, the fourth to Conor, and the fifth to Diaz. I would say it's obviously a close fight. I'm seeing a lot of people call it a robbery. This is one of those situations, man, where nobody can call it a robbery. It's a close fight. It can go either way, but no one was robbed in that fight. Come on now.
What'd you think? Who'd you score it for?
Certainly no robbery. I had it the same way, and I saw a lot of people scoring it that exact way, exactly what Shaun said. McGregor in the first, McGregor in the second, Diaz in the third, McGregor in the fourth, and Diaz in the fifth. That's how both of the judges who gave it to McGregor had it. The other judge who scored it a draw, which was Glenn Trowbridge, he had that exactly the same with one difference. The difference was that he had Diaz winning the third round 10-8, which isn't the craziest thing in the world. It was a wider margin than the other rounds, I would say. I think that it certainly is not a clear, I thought it was a clear victory, not a dominant victory by any stretch, but I thought every round was fairly reasonably scored. They were close rounds, but I thought that most people had it 48-47 for McGregor, and I think that's the right call.
Seems like the Diaz supporters are criticizing Conor for running. In the post-fight press conference, Nate Diaz said that he thought Conor should have been deducted a point for running. What do you make of this narrative coming out of the fight?
I mean, I think it's silly, right? That's just to shorten to the point. I think it's silly. And the thing that stuck out to me the most was I think we all kind of felt this way. The very latter parts of the second round, and then leading into the third, throughout the third, there was a very weird feeling. There's a weird vibe. It was almost, we have seen this before. This is the same exact fight, and for Conor to be able to push through that and show the heart of a champion and do what he did in the fourth round and just continue to perform. I think that's what stuck out to me the most.
This fight and the fight game in general, always about adjustments, right? The finer things. And Conor McGregor's coach, John Kavanagh, said going into this fight that his reputation was at stake. Do you think, based on what you saw from Conor, that they made the right adjustments, that they really looked at that first fight and put out a better fight, a better game plan in this second one?
They did. It was better. Right from the first round, you could tell that things were different. First of all, Conor McGregor was kicking Nate Diaz's leg much more than he did in the first fight. He was using that as part of the strategy. He wasn't just pushing forward, and trying to take Diaz's head off every second of that round. It was a much more measured approach and much more strategic approach for cardio reasons, because he loaded up so much on that left hand in the first fight, and he hit Nate a lot with it. Nate didn't go away, and Conor gassed out by the second round. It was very similar in this fight, and Conor did get tired, but he got tired later in the fight, and then eventually Nate got a little bit tired too, and they were almost on equal footing by the end in a way. So it delayed Conor getting tired this time, that more measured approach, the leg kicks. He didn't throw any of those wheel kicks. He didn't throw any of that stuff that expends a lot of energy. He was training that last week at his media day, almost every combination with the wheel kick. It must have been to throw people off, because he did not throw a single one of those really tonight. He did one spinning back into the body. That's different. He was going to the body more. It was a much, much better strategy. He still gassed out, and Diaz still had chances to win the fight 100%, but definitely a better strategy than the first time around.
And by the way, in case you're wondering, I did in fact lose my voice as a result of yesterday's madness at the weigh-in, so I don't just sound weird to you at home.
I almost lost my life,
That's right.
Helwani.
Yeah,
So
I lost my voice.
Don't worry about your voice.
It's pretty damn important. Back to the analysis. The post-fight press conference, Nate Diaz said that he thought he spent too much time trying to wrestle with Conor, and he devoted too much time to the takedown. I thought that he should have done that more, that he should have tried to take him down more. He successfully took him down once in the final seconds of the fight, but are you surprised that he came away with that analysis?
I don't know if I'm surprised at that, because that is just kind of Nate Diaz's psyche, right? Like, this is a matter of pride. We're going to stand and bang it out because that's what we do. But I agree with you that I think it would have been an easier route for him if he was able to try to, work the takedowns in more and, go to the one area where he really does have a significant advantage over Conor, and that is, the ground game, the jiu-jitsu. Although I will say I was very, very impressed by Conor's takedown defense. Nate tried, like you said, several times to get the fight to the floor, and Conor was able to get his hips against the fence, get wide, and he was defending him very, very well, especially against, like Conor said, a man who was much bigger than him during the actual fight.
Yeah. Also, Nate Diaz said that around a month ago, he suffered an injury. He injured his knee and he couldn't do jiu-jitsu. And then he said around 2.5 weeks ago, he got hit in the ribs and he couldn't spar. So in the final days leading up to this fight, he was just pretty much running and shadow boxing. Let's play devil's advocate here and put those two excuses in the Conor McGregor camp. If Conor came out at that press conference after a loss and said those two things, how do you think people would react?
Oh yeah, certainly people would say it's sour grapes and oh yeah, you're making this excuse now. Why did you say it before the fight? You know what people say. I mean, it's been said. Many fighters after losses have had excuses, and they've always gotten crap from fans for that. And I saw a little bit on Twitter. Nate was getting crap from Conor fans. At the end of the day, you like who you like, and you're just gonna skew that way. So if you're a McGregor fan, you're gonna think that Nate is BSing when he says he was injured. Of course, that's just how you're going to take it. That's just going to be your view because you're a fan of that one fighter. If you're a Nate fan, you're gonna say that Nate won the fight. You're gonna say, oh, he had octagon control or something, some ridiculous thing. I hate octagon control. Stop talking about that crap. It's ridiculous. Sorry, a little tangent
Love
there.
the passion.
Well, I mean, you know what I mean, though. Diaz fans are going to think that Diaz won the fight. McGregor fans are going to say that Nate made excuses, whatever. You know what that means? Just got to do it again, baby. Let's just do it again.
Run it back,
Run it
baby.
back.
Okay, here's a non-surprise. The post-fight drama, antics, interviews, perhaps almost as entertaining as the fight itself.
Yeah.
Conor McGregor gets on the mic after he wins and says, surprise, surprise, mother effers, the king is back. Starts talking about moving down to 155 and doing it a third time. Nate says that he's not considering taking any other fight unless it's the third fight with Conor McGregor. But here's the real interesting one. The last thing that Conor McGregor said at the post-fight press conference was, SHIT is about to hit the fan. And then he walks off. What the heck was he referring to?
I mean, it's going to be a very interesting thing to follow because I mean, we haven't been able to see it yet, but it appears that Dana White, said after the fight that Conor is going to have to go down to 145 and defend that belt, or he's going to get it stripped. And Conor was asked that in the presser. What would you? Is that an option for you? And what would you think if they stripped your belt? And his reaction to that was very telling to me, and it was very interesting. Almost to the effect of, there's no way that they would do that because it would devalue that division so much to have a man that I KO'd in 13 seconds now ruling it. He said it would send it back to the prelims. The ball is kind of in his court right now, and it's going to be interesting. It's obvious that this is all shaping up to be some sort of, again, this power struggle between Conor and the UFC. You almost wonder, in my mind, it seems like Conor and Nate both have transcended the belt in a little bit, in a way. In that whatever they want to do, they can more or less dictate that. And it's going to be interesting to see because, I mean, the UFC likes to keep that tight. They like to tell you what you're going to be doing next. That doesn't seem to be what these two want to do. So it's going to be interesting to see going forward how that plays out.
Yeah, Mark, it's so fascinating because there was no belt on the line here tonight, no number one contender status, but it seems like in victory, Conor McGregor has seized back some power and some control, and he was very willing to remind us of that and left us with that cliffhanger. So now you have the book, you have the pencil, as they used to say back in the day.
Sure.
What do you do as far as Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz's next fight? Do you book the immediate trilogy fight? Do you have Conor fight someone else? Tell us what you do.
Well, first I want to say not only does McGregor have more power than he had a few months ago and leading up to this fight, I think Nate Diaz has just as much power as he did before this fight. I don't think he loses anything tonight. I don't think he loses a damn thing. Yeah, he lost the fight. Big deal. It was a war. He was right there. I thought he came out of looking great. McGregor was complimenting him, saying, this guy is bloody. His face opened up, and he's still coming forward. He's incredible. Nate Diaz is amazing. People want to see him fight now more than ever. Next, I think you do run it back. I think it's the only thing that makes the most sense right now. I think you do. I really do. Nate Diaz said he's not fighting again until it's the rematch. He said I'm going on. He said I'm going. He used some harsh language that I won't use on this family show on MMA Fighting. But yeah, he said he's not coming back unless that's the rematch. He's gone. He's on vacation. Conor McGregor is just leaving his options completely open. He won't say either way. He'll say stuff that Shaun just said about Aldo and this, but then he'll say, I'm the champion, I want to defend my belt. He's not saying anything. He wants to go into those negotiations completely free. I don't know where he goes. Does he try to get the fight with Floyd Mayweather now? I don't know.
Stop it. Why did you just say that?
Don't do that.
I'm not.
Just ruined my night.
But he's going to use that.
Yes.
You know that the talk is going to come back. He's going to use
Seth
that.
Rollins. Maybe he'll fight him.
Maybe how about
Brock
Barack?
Lesnar?
How about Barack? You did a little Heyman yesterday. Barack Lesnar. He's leaving everything open. That's what he wants to do, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out. This is the fight after the fight, the fight in the boardrooms and with the contracts and the papers, and who is going to win that battle? Conor McGregor at the UFC. I don't know. It's going to be fun to find out, though.
Shaun?
The one thing that I found interesting and that Conor kind of threw in at one point during the press conference is he was talking about, we're going to do the trilogy, but he said maybe next time it'll be for the belt.
Yeah.
And so it seems almost like his eyes are still on that 155-pound title that he was going for in March. So,
And I have said, even going back to UFC 200, and after Eddie Alvarez won the belt from Rafael dos Anjos in July, I've been saying that the winner of tonight's fight, Diaz-McGregor, should fight Alvarez for the 155-pound title. Maybe that's his next move. Maybe it's Alvarez-McGregor for the lightweight title, trying to get those two belts. You're shaking your head. You don't.
Well, don't say that to Khabib Nurmagomedov and his millions upon millions of fans who love to spam people's Instagram accounts with hashtag Khabib time, or
Is that
it's
happening to
Khabib.
you?
Oh, it happens. It happens. But hey, I'm on Team Khabib, guys. Don't come to me. Okay, let me ask you if you agree with this. Do you want to see the rematch right away? Would you do that? I mean, in New York, think about Conor McGregor and the Irish fans. I mean, there's no bigger fight that you could possibly make for the debut in MSG or at MSG. Do you do that fight right away, or do you have him try to fight someone else first?
to be honest, I'm fine with either option. I would be, if they announce the trilogy fight, the rubber match tomorrow, I'm on board. Sign me up. I'll be there. I'm excited for it. If they announce something else, if they announce Conor versus Eddie or just whatever, I'm on board. There is so many options at this point for both of these guys that it is very compelling. Just from an outsider perspective, like it's just, I don't know how to articulate what I'm trying to say, but the stakes in this fight ended up being, I don't know.
The struggle is very real between the both of them, and between the entities that are Team Diaz, McGregor, and the UFC, and I think that's what made this whole promotion.
Feels like a triangle, like a triple threat type situation where every side is kind of trying to jostle for position in its own way.
And this is very unique because it has nothing to do with the belt.
Yeah.
You know, it has absolutely nothing to do with the belt. Now, I don't want to make a mountain out of a mole here, but at the press conference, it seemed like Nate Diaz was smoking something. And, these virgin eyes and lips and ears don't really know much about this stuff. But it was somewhat of an anti-establishment move by Diaz, who has done this before. You've looked into this a little bit based on his response as to what this was. Can you shed any kind of light on it?
Yeah, he said that he was smoking CBD oil through a vapor pen. That would be, I believe, classified as a cannabinoid, which is banned in competition, and we are still, as of right now, in competition. So, I mean, two things. I hope that that's not actually what he was doing, but also I would hope, that's, if they come down on that, that's just ridiculous, in my personal opinion. So I hope that nothing comes out of this, but it was interesting to see that. What
do you think? You looked into it as well? Is this an issue?
I don't even want to talk about this, honestly. Yeah. I don't even want to talk about it. It's whatever, man. This is a personal thing, and maybe it is prohibited in competition. But if dude wants to smoke a vape pen after he just beat up and got beat up for 5 rounds, I don't give a damn. So I don't care.
Okay.
That's just personal. Maybe it's prohibited. I don't know. I'll look into it. But personally, could not care less. Those guys just put on a goddamn show tonight.
Wow, a lot of profanity out of Marc Raimondi. This is great stuff. Worth noting that Nate Diaz said that it was something that helps him heal after the fight. So we'll see what happens. I'm just looking into it. I'm just asking. I'm trying to educate myself. Okay, so that's the main event talk. Let's talk quickly about the co-main event here. Rumble Johnson knocking out Glover Teixeira in a matter of seconds. I believe 13 seconds to be exact. He is the #1 contender. Daniel Cormier was sitting cage side and was saying, come on, baby, let's do it again. Of course, Daniel Cormier beat Rumble Johnson back at UFC 187 to become the light heavyweight champion. And during the post-fight press conference, or his post-fight press conference, Rumble Johnson said, you know, John Jones needs to sit back. I don't care if he thinks he's coming back. It's me and DC. First off, just if you can just, what can you say about a 13-second knockout?
Sure.
I mean, this is a scary man. No one hits harder than him. He's established that, and he's done it again. What do you make of the performance and now this matchup potentially coming down the line between him and DC?
I mean, to be honest, he is one of the most terrifying punchers that I believe I have ever seen in my entire lifetime. It is unbelievable the power that guy has in his hands. I'm not sure, but I'm almost positive that a tooth flew out of Glover Teixeira during that knockout. That was crazy to watch. Yeah, that was unbelievable. And I did find, like you said, that little comment interesting that John Jones can sit and wait. It seems like the division's moved on, man. It seems like the UFC 200 drama was kind of the end of whatever reverential terms people held John Jones up in. The division's moved on, and I'm excited for the Rumble versus DC rematch. I mean, what does it say about DC that he was able to take that punch? Especially the more we see this, the more we see the just ferocity in these punches, that DC was able to take that and continue to fight. I'm excited for that.
DC texted me afterwards and said, man, Rumble Johnson hits harder than anyone I've ever fought against. And yet there he is sitting cage-sided saying, come on, let's do it again. He's actually felt the power, and he's saying, come on, that's a crazy man. I wasn't all that into the idea of the rematch going into it. I'm into it. I want to see it again. What about you?
Yeah, 100%, man. Say whatever you want about Rumble Johnson outside the cage. He's had his issues.
Humble Rumble?
Humble Rumble, Rumble Johnson, Anthony Johnson, whatever you want to call him. He's had his issues outside the cage. Inside the cage, man, he's must-see TV. You cannot miss an Anthony Johnson fight. The guy is money every single time. It's always exciting. I mean, Glover Teixeira hasn't been knocked out since like 2002. Like some kind of, I think it was 2002, his first pro fight. I was in high school in 2002. Teixeira hasn't gotten knocked out since then. Rumble Johnson did it in 13 seconds. Amazing. And to your point about Daniel Cormier, the guy that was getting booed tonight, getting booed against Anderson Silva, wants to fight that guy. Okay, you can keep booing Daniel Cormier. That's a bad dude as well, and I'm looking forward to that fight very much.
Okay, to round out the pay-per-view card, we also saw some fantastic performances. I mean, what a card this was, and a card that was hit by injuries, but ended up being, wow, a lot more entertaining, in my opinion, than UFC 200, and a few fighters reminded us of that. Donald Cowboy Cerrone finishing Rick Story in the second round. He remains undefeated as a welterweight. Now he's talking about going down to 155. I don't know if that's going to happen, but important to note, that was the final fight on his current UFC contract. He says he's a UFC guy, but what a way to finish up that contract for Cowboy Cerrone. He continues to look amazing at 170 pounds. How about Mike Perry taking this fight on like less than 2 weeks' notice? The Ultimate Warrior himself finishing Hyung-Yu Lim in the first round. What a performance from him. And to kick off the pay-per-view, we saw Tim Means returning with a big win over Sabah Homasi. But that's not the only news that came out of tonight's card. Cody Garbrandt finishing Takeo Mizugaki in a matter of seconds. Less amount of time than Dominic Cruz. Ton of great performances. Artem Lobov defeating Chris Avila as well in that. Lorenz Larkin. My point is there any other performance before we go that you really want to spotlight here tonight? Because there was a lot of great ones.
Lorenz Larkin, man, he bet on himself, and boy did it work. That is he was saying it all week. He wasn't happy with his placement in the card when he ended up fighting. There was so little people in the arena, and man, it did not matter. He went out there in the biggest fight of his life and just starched Neil Magny. That was an incredible performance, and this is a Scott Coker guy. This is a guy that, it's weird to think he was fighting at light heavyweight in Strikeforce, but I mean, he was being groomed to be their champion. He was going to fight Luke Rockhold at the time of the sale. Is the guy who beat Robbie Lawler. And now he's finally fulfilling that potential. He found his weight class. Welterweight is clearly his weight class. And he looks like a killer at welterweight. He is going to be an interesting free agent moving forward.
Final word, any performance you want to spotlight?
Since you mentioned Garbrandt and Larkin, shout out to Courtney Casey for finishing Randa Marcos in the first round. Marcos is a very good grappler, and Casey got her in an armbar. Looked great. Had great ground and pound. I thought she looked fantastic. She could be someone to watch in that division. And I just want to say, great night of fights overall. Really, the whole night was fantastic, and doesn't it seem like since that early weigh-in started, since the early weigh-in started, the fights have been pretty darn good in the UFC. Just putting that out there. Small sample size, but I'm just gonna float that out there now.
In fact, Lorenz Larkin said that had a big impact on his performance. The extra 6 hours to hydrate, he believes, really helped him out. So there you go.
Wow. See, I didn't even listen to Larkin's interview.
And as what do we have here? We've got a picture here as I'm about to wrap up. Okay.
On
And
our,
well, here's some breaking news, courtesy of Esther on Instagram. Raquel Pennington, who also won tonight, she defeated Elizabeth Phillips. This Instagram post is telling us that she apparently, this is what it says. Let me not make any assumptions. It says, what happens in Vegas lasts forever, and she tags fellow UFC fighter Tisha Torres. And as you can see right over there, maybe we could put that picture up there. They seem to be happy, holding hands, and celebrating her victory tonight in a very special and memorable way. How about that?
So not only does McGregor win, but so does love.
Love. And
love
you know
wins. Love wins.
Love wins. And you know what else wins tonight? I think combat sports wins as well. You know, I think as fans and journalists of this great sport, we dream of scenarios like this. Rivalries, great fights, living or perhaps, again, exceeding the hype. And think back to December when Conor McGregor knocked out Jose Aldo in 13 seconds. In a million years, could you have ever predicted that we'd be 2 fights into a rivalry between Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor contested at 170 pounds? But now this has become the story of 2016 as far as fighting is concerned. And here we are after 2 fights of a rivalry that we never thought was going to be on the radar with all the options for Conor McGregor. And here we are sort of salivating at the idea of a 3rd fight. That's what makes this sport so great. It is so unpredictable, and perhaps unlike 200, this night reminds us why we love this sport. It lives up to the hype, and wow, did it deliver in a big way. I think we're all still buzzing from what we witnessed. Big credit, big kudos to both Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz for showing up, backing up their words, and really, really delivering on all that talk and hype. Amazing stuff, and if you missed it, shame on you because you missed a classic. Anyhow, that does it for us. What a week here in Las Vegas. It started with bottles and cans being thrown. It started with all kinds of shenanigans. A very memorable weigh-in. It started with my voice being lost, or I guess it continued with my voice being lost. I'll try to find it before Monday's MMA Hour, but it was a pleasure covering it once again with our crew here in Las Vegas. For Esther, Casey, Mark, Shaun, I am Ariel. Thank you so much for watching our coverage all week long from here in Las Vegas. We'll see you Monday for the MMA Hour, but for now, we say goodnight. Thanks again.